Move abroad with nothing but your American bank account, and there's a chance you get locked out of your own money. The US system doesn't like foreign activity on bank accounts, and plenty of them are being closed because of it. My name is Ben. I left Germany in 2020, and since then I've lived long-term in 7 countries and I hold 5 active residencies. Along the way, I talked to dozens of Americans planning to retire outside of the US. First, we talk about visa questions and healthcare, but every conversation sooner or later ends up in the same place. Money. How do I actually access my savings from another country? What happens to my social security deposits? And finally, will my US bank or brokerage shut me down after I left? So today I'm showing you the 3 account setup that I have been using for years and that plenty of my clients use as well. It's simple, it works, and it doesn't cost a fortune to set up. Let's start with the account you already have. Most Americans keep a US bank account after they move, and they should. While you can have Social Security paid straight into your foreign bank account in most Western countries or the UK or Canada or dozens of other countries, you technically don't need the US account anymore. But I wouldn't close it just yet. The US account is your anchor. Your income lands there without any international delays, your brokerage links to it for withdrawals, and tax refunds arrive within days. And when something goes wrong with a foreign bank, and at some point it will, you still have an account that works. Now the problem. Most US banks don't want you once you live abroad. Chase, Bank of America, or Wells Fargo, they have all closed or at least restricted accounts after spotting a foreign address or an overseas login by tracking, for example, the IP address. Wells Fargo stopped opening new brokerage accounts for people living outside of the US back in 2021. Because under a law called FATCA, keeping expat customers means a lot of extra paperwork. And dropping you is cheaper for them than dealing with all that paperwork hassle. So what you need is a US bank that actually welcomes people who move abroad. You want a few things from it: a foreign mailing address that doesn't raise any red flags, the possibility to send and receive international wires, and no crazy monthly fees, and finally a debit card that works everywhere. Banks like that exist, but it might not be the one that you have right now. So choose one that has the criteria that I just mentioned and close the other ones that don't work anymore. So what is account number 2? So let's say you're buying groceries in Lisbon or Barcelona with your US bank account. That might not be the best setup because of the fees you pay, or you're getting screwed over with the exchange rate when your account is in dollars, but you pay, for example, in euros, or you pay in Swedish krona, or you pay in Singapore dollars. Also, a traditional bank often charges $25 to $50 for an international wire. And then they have another few percent hidden inside fees and also a bad exchange rate. So if you send, for example, $5,000, you can lose over $100 before the money even arrives in your account. If you're doing that every month, you're throwing away money for nothing. So how do you move money to where you live without paying crazy fees every single time? You use a so-called Fintech. The most popular ones are Wise and Revolut. Maybe you've heard of them already. So Wise or Revolut, instead of screwing you on the exchange rate like the US bank sometimes does, they give you the mid-market rate, the actual number that you see when you Google the exchange rate, and they charge a fee, but it's a small and it's a visible fee. So that same $5,000, let's say, that transfer costs you maybe $25 to $50 instead of over $100. And it arrives within a day or two, and sometimes even in seconds. You can think of it as a bridge for your currency. So you send dollars for a US account into Wise or Revolut, you convert it into euros or pounds or baht or Singapore dollars, and then you spend it on the Fintech card, or you push it into a local account where you actually live. One warning though, a Fintech is not a full bank. It's very good at moving and converting money, but I wouldn't park my life savings inside of one. You use it as a bridge, you don't use it as a vault. Your main savings belong to a proper bank account at a location such as Switzerland or Singapore, or for example, Central America. So now your money can travel and you can convert it, but there's one last step. This is the account that almost everyone forgets after they open the Wise account, and it's the one that makes daily life in the new place actually work. A lot of countries use payment systems that only connect to local banks. So for example, Thailand has a QR code system called PromptPay, where you can just scan a QR code and you can pay, for example, at a street stall or at a restaurant, because they have a QR code sitting right at the counter. But without a Thai bank account, you have no access to that payment system. Portugal has something similar. It's called MBWay, which works a similar way. And Spain, for example, has something called Bizo. And every country has its own version of how people actually pay for things locally, and it's usually tied to a local bank account. Without a local account, you're either using cash, or you're using your foreign card, or you're using the Fintech. They all work, but neither of them is really comfortable because the local payment systems are just easier to use. Getting a local account takes some paperwork, and whether you can get it also depends on the specific visa or residency program you are on. So in some countries that is quite easy, for example in Portugal, where you can get an account with your tax number. For example, on the D7 visa, it's quite easy. In other countries, it's a bit harder. For example, in Thailand, it's a bit tricky unless you have the right visa. And for example, in France, it's notoriously difficult to get a local account, even on a good visa. So getting that local account depends on where you move to. Sometimes it can be a little bit tricky. So now you maybe ask yourself, why do I need it? I just use Wise or just use Revolut. Well, it's just a bit more convenient and you're not always thinking about the fees that you have to pay or that you have to carry cash around. And also, and maybe that's just me, I feel a little bit more integrated once I'm using the same payment methods that the locals actually use in the country. So how do the three accounts work together? So the system only goes in one direction. Your income lands in a US account, and once a month or whenever you need it, you transfer money to Wise or to Revolut and you convert it to the local currency. Then you spend on the Fintech card or you push the money to your local account, for example, to pay for rent or for bills. You can then set up direct debits for rent and utilities and you're good to go, just like a local. So it's three accounts and only one direction, US to the Fintech to the local account. If your local bank freezes your account, and sometimes that can happen, you can still reach your money through Wise. If Wise is a problem, you still have your US account. So nothing has a single point of failure. So how I use mine is quite simple. Once a month, I move money to Wise, I convert it into the local currency, and then I push it to my bank account, which happens in a few seconds. When I'm in the UAE, for example, which is one of my other residencies, I do it the same way with the local UAE account. The whole thing takes 5 minutes to set up, and it saves me a lot in fees and time. So that's it, a US bank account for your income and as your safety net, a fintech in the middle to move and convert money cheaply, and a local account to be able to use local payment apps and save money on fees. Get these three in place and the money side of your move abroad just got a little easier. If you want some more helpful advice, I made a free checklist that walks you through 25 things that are important for your retirement abroad. Check the link in the comments and you can download it for free. And if you want to support me, feel free to subscribe and comment.